Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds, number 49. So this is where I like to collect together all the new music that I've purchased over the past week and present it to you. And I get it from different places like my local record store, but also online retail like Amazon, eBay, and more. For this past week, I have 12 new music finds to go through with you, breaking down into 3 new releases, 3 from eBay, and 6 catalog albums that I purchased off of Amazon. But before we dive into all of that, if you are new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with New Music Finds, episode number 49. So kicking things off, we are finally back to new releases here. Seems like we're going to be back on this for a pretty regular basis going forward, which is good. You know, during the holidays, it always kind of wanes a bit and we don't have as many new releases coming out. But for this past week, January 21st, I purchased 3 of the new releases that were coming out. And the first one up to talk about here, John Mellencamp, Strictly a One-Eyed Jack. 24th studio album from him. Not much going on in terms of the artwork in here. There's no pictures of him on the inside, just this painting here, which, as I understand from reading some of the reviews on it, isn't actually one of his paintings. So kind of interesting because he is a phenomenal painter in and of himself. But 3 of the songs on here do feature Bruce Springsteen, hence the reason I'm wearing my Bruce Springsteen shirt here to give a little shout out to him. It's a good album. It's a bit more somber than some of his past releases, although he's sort of been on more of this folk kick and sort of somber release style, the gravelly style vocal, more mellow style music on the last few albums. So if you have purchased one of his last 2 or 3 albums, this isn't far off from it, but it does seem to be more somber, more mellow than even some of those. Good album. I do like it, but I do think it's one of those ones you're going to have to be in the mood for. If you think it's going to be like the release from the 80s, that is not the case. Do listen to it before picking it up. But I'm enjoying it. And he is getting older. His vocals are much deeper and more gravelly. He likes the direction that's going. I kind of wish it was more of the stuff from the 80s. But I'm willing to grow with him and see where this goes. I can always pull out those older albums if I want that sort of stuff. All right, so the next one up here, Giant, Shifting Time, 5th studio album from these guys, and first in 12 years. They've got a new vocalist in tow, Hilly Kent, or sorry, I did that backwards. Kent Hilly is the name. Comes from a band called Perfect Plan. I haven't checked out his previous stuff, but I understand that's pretty good too. A lot of people have been pointing that out to me. Person I'm most interested in this lineup because we're really getting down limited on the original members. Original members left, only 2 of them, David Huff on drums and Mike Brignadero on bass. But on guitar, John Roth. So him coming from Winger, I've been certainly interested in the things that he does outside of Winger. And so I was certainly excited about this. Now I have to say, with the new lead vocalist, Kent Hilly, really enjoying this release here too. So I'm definitely going to be checking out his other stuff like Perfect Plan, but very good stuff going forward on this. And Dan Huff, the original guitarist, also vocalist, does play guitar on one of the songs here. So you do get to have that little connection there as well. But he's off doing all this production work, which he's always been a very in-demand producer, session player, and so forth, songwriter. So he's just busy off doing those sort of things and no longer partaking in Giant, at least not full-time anyway. All right, next up, The Ferrymen, One More River to Cross. 3rd studio album from these guys, a bit of a super group here. We got Magnus Carlsen on guitar, Ronnie Romero on vocals. That guy's seemingly everywhere, playing with everyone. And we got Mike Tirana on drums, and same thing. That guy seems to play drums with everyone. I've seen him, in so many different lineups and whatnot. But great to have all these guys to come together. I actually was pulled into this group here through Ronnie Romero as he was just finishing up with Rainbow a number of years back. Then this was the first thing he did out of the gate, so I was, excited to hear some studio work, because the two Rainbow albums that were released were live. One of them did have one studio track, but to hear a whole album. I also knew Magnus Carlsson from a number of other projects that he's done, so that was a great pairing. And then to find out that Mike Tirana was in the lineup was, a little bit of like sort of icing on the cake. It just made the whole thing a little bit better. So really good stuff. I'm still, I think, the biggest fan of the first album. Second one was pretty good. This one here I think I might like better than the second album, but it's going to take a few more listens to really get into and kind of see where I stand on all this. But if you like Ronnie Romero, do check this out, because he's just sounding fantastic on it. All right, so then I picked up 6 things through Amazon. Some of it Marketplace, some of it straight through Amazon itself. And I'd been on a more melodic rock AOR type kick, and so I picked up the last 2 Survivor albums I didn't have. First one being this one here, the debut album, self-titled 1980, a Rock Candy Records release, or reissue I should say. So this one here featuring Dave Bickler on it, and kind of interestingly, I got into the band during the Jimmy Jamison era, who's the second lead vocalist and definitely probably the most popular. But in listening to these albums now, this past week, I actually found myself liking the Dave Bickler early era, when they were a little bit heavier, a little bit more hard rock than sort of the AOR pop 80s stuff that they started to do when Jimmy Jamison came into the lineup. So I was enjoying getting that, filling that in. And the last one that I didn't have was this one, Too Hot to Sleep, 1988, 7th and final studio album, at least of the 80s heyday period. This one here also a Rock Candy Records release. You can get all 7 of their albums, or the first 7 of their albums, from Rock Candy. So great packaging, great write-up on these guys, and just great remastering on it too. So if you're a fan of Survivor and you never picked up those albums, the Rock Candy reissues are really good. And a couple weeks back, I'd gone to my local record store and seen some, vinyl in there. And one of the things that I showed you guys was a Burton Cummings solo album, because I was really into the Guess Who at the time. And I didn't buy it on vinyl. I had checked it out. Kind of didn't click with me at the moment, but it's been sticking there in the back of my mind. So I finally was just like, you know what? Let's just buy this album. Let's have it. And it'll either grow on me, or it's just going to be the right thing, because it's been sitting there in the back of my mind thinking about it. So I picked this one up, My Own Way to Rock, from 1977, which is his second solo album. And while I'm still not 100% into it, it's got a lot of different styles of music, and it's got some really interesting sort of funk stuff going on within it, and it's very eclectic the way the album is, but it does rock hard at some different points. So I do think that when I get into more of that vein, that more of sort of that funk, a little different than straight up rock, this album is probably going to click with me and be just the right thing. So picked it up, got it in the collection. When I come back full circle to Guess Who and stuff like that, I will have that there. And I'll do that a lot with stuff. I'll pick things up, might not be in the mood for that at the time, but I know I will down the road somewhere. So also just finishing up a whole Crosby, Stills and Nash sidebar that I was doing with 60s rock and things of that nature. And this is one that I had seen, but again, didn't pick up. So a Graham Nash solo album, his third one, in fact, Earth and Sky, from 1980. And so Hollies, and as I mentioned, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young also. So Graham Nash doing this. But the thing I found out with this is this one here actually has become my favorite of his solo albums. I do like that. This is obviously late 70s because it came out right in 1980, but it does have that feel of the 1980s production to it. So it's more rock, it's less of the folk sort of stuff, and it's more in the vein of the later era Crosby, Stills and Nash material, which is what I like, as opposed to that earlier stuff that they did. So this one here was just perfect. It just fit with me. And I don't know, it was the album cover that kept speaking to me on it. Graham Nash standing there holding a camera on it, and one of those things that I kept coming back to, and again just decided to buy. And when I got it, even though it was kind of late in the game for what I was into, it fit perfectly. It was an album that I just kept in the player for the next like 3 days. And then from that, been getting into a bunch of female-fronted hard rock, pulling out all the stuff I've got filling in some holes in my collection and stuff, and one of them being Joan Jett. So picked up her first two albums, Bad Reputation from 1980, that's the debut, and then I Love Rock and Roll from 1981, second solo album. Interestingly, both of those were less than $6 on Amazon, brand new, not used. Kind of crazy that they were so inexpensive. Don't know why they were on sale down to that degree, but I wasn't going to pick them up. I was listening to some Joan Jett and it was clicking with me, but these are two of the earlier albums when she was doing more of that sort of 60s revival rock, I call it, not really the sort of straight ahead harder rock that she did in the later 80s. And you know, went ahead and picked them up because at $6, I mean, I don't even think I paid $12 for both of these things. It was just a really great deal. So, you know, check out Amazon. They've got some amazing sales going on right now, it seems like. Now, continuing on with the female-fronted hard rock thing, I've also been enjoying Toronto. One of the albums I did not have by them, Head On from 1981, which is their second studio album. Picked this one up off eBay. And so, I don't know if it's out of print or it just wasn't available through Amazon, but I had to go to eBay to get that. And another one that I picked up off of eBay that definitely is out of print and very hard to come by, Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes, Call of the Wild, 1974. Last two Amboy Dukes albums that were released, this one, Call of the Wild, and the follow-up album that came out after it. Forget the name of it offhand, but I own it as well. Both of those are Tooth, Fang, and Claw. So those two records together are the ones that sort of led into what we know solo Ted Nugent as being. Not quite as much as the debut solo album from Ted Nugent with that great production on that, but these two albums definitely moved in that vein, were less of the psychedelic late 60s sound that they had been doing, and so definitely wanted to get that one on CD and have it. And then the last thing I picked up is a box set, not the kind of box set that we might all normally think of, but one of those 5 album collections, and it's the Monkees original album series box set. So 5 albums in here. Great to get each of these. This album here and this album here don't seem to be available any longer, and at $20 to pick this up, even though I actually had 2 of the albums. You can see one of them there behind me, more of the Monkees from 1967, and then I also had Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Jones Limited from 1967 as well. Buying these at $20 and even replacing some of it was totally worthwhile to get those other albums, because individually those other albums that I was missing were astronomically priced through eBay and Marketplace and stuff like that. So I'm going to hang on to the jewel case stuff. If I ever come across the others in jewel cases, I will replace them and might get rid of this, but for now at least I have the albums on CD and can listen to them. And there you go. That is 12 new music finds for you guys as part of episode number 49. For related videos, I'm going to leave a link in the description to top 10 rock albums by ladies of the 80s, if you're interested in that, because I've been on that kick lately going on. And certainly do check back every Wednesday for new episodes of New Music Finds. Let me know your thoughts. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye-bye, everyone.